The bank called me at 9:18 on a Thursday morning. I was standing in a loading dock outside a grocery distribution center in Indianapolis, trying to explain why a refrigerated shipment had arrived 6 hours late. The woman on the phone said there had been a large transfer from my joint savings account. She wanted to know whether I had authorized it. I had not, but my wife had, and the money had been sent to a property management company for an apartment lease. On the application, my wife Vanessa was listed as the domestic partner of a man named Elliot Crane, a man I had never heard of. My name is Henry Walker. I'm 42 years old, and I manage regional operations for a food distribution company. It sounds more impressive than it is. Most days, I deal with delayed trucks, damaged pallets, driver schedules, warehouse temperatures, and problems that arrive at 6 in the morning and need to be solved before lunch. I like systems because systems make sense. A delivery arrives or it doesn't. An invoice matches or it doesn't. A number is either in the account or it isn't. For 15 years, I believed my marriage worked on the same principle. Vanessa and I had been married for 12 of them. She was 39, worked as an office manager at a physical therapy clinic, and had a talent for making our small house feel more put together than it really was. She knew how to make a table look welcoming with 3 candles and a bowl of lemons. She remembered birthdays. She mailed thank you cards. She always bought the good coffee when we had guests, even when money was tight. And for a long time, money had been tight. Not because we were reckless, because when Vanessa's father had a stroke 6 years earlier, her parents had been in worse financial shape than anyone knew. Her father had a small contracting business that had fallen behind on taxes. Her mother had medical bills. There was an old home equity loan tied to their house. Vanessa came to me one night sitting at our kitchen table, crying so quietly I almost didn't hear her. "My parents are going to lose the house," she said. "What do they need?" She told me the number. It was more money than we had. But it was not more money than we could eventually earn. So we took out a loan against our own savings. We cut expenses. We stopped taking trips. I worked extra weekends. Vanessa picked up additional administrative shifts at the clinic. For 6 years, we paid it down. We called it the family debt, as if giving it a simple name made it easier to carry. By the spring of last year, we were almost finished. There was one final payment left, $38,000. That was the amount we had been saving toward for nearly a year. It sat in our joint account, separate from our regular checking. We had agreed not to touch it until the debt was cleared. Then we would breathe. That was the plan. Pay off the debt, rebuild our emergency fund, take a trip somewhere warm. Maybe finally replace the kitchen cabinets that had been peeling since we bought the house. Vanessa used to talk about it at night. "Just imagine," she would say, "no more spreadsheet, no more checking the balance before buying groceries. No more pretending everything is fine at holidays." I would smile and tell her we were close. And we were. That was the part one still have trouble accepting. We were close, just not to the same future. The bank representative's name was Marissa. Her voice was professional but careful. "Mr. Walker," she said, "the transfer came from a joint account. Your wife's authorization appears valid. But because of the size, and because the payment was sent to a new recipient, the system flagged it for verification." "How much?" I asked. There was a pause. $24,600. I looked across the loading dock at a forklift reversing between stacks of crates. The backup alarm kept beeping. A truck engine coughed. Someone near me was asking a driver for a signature. And I stood there trying to understand how more than half of the money we had spent a year saving had disappeared without a conversation. "What company received it?" I asked. "Lakeview Residential Group," Marissa said. "The note attached to the transfer indicates a lease deposit and prepaid rent." "A lease? I'm afraid I can't see more than the transaction note, sir. Can you send me the confirmation?" "Yes," she said. "Since you are a joint account holder, I can send the transaction record to the email address on file." I thanked her. Then I stood still for a moment longer than I needed to. A logistics manager learns early that panic has a cost. If you panic, the drivers panic. If the drivers panic, the warehouse panics. And if the warehouse panics, someone makes an expensive mistake because nobody stopped long enough to read what was actually in front of them. So I did what I always did. I looked for the records. The confirmation email arrived 3 minutes later. Lakeview Residential Group. $24,600. Lease deposit, advance rent, move-in fees. The property was a new luxury apartment building on the north side of Indianapolis. I knew the building. Everyone did. It had a rooftop lounge, underground parking, a gym with floor-to-ceiling windows, and rents high enough that people said the name of the building the way they said the name of a private club. I opened the leasing website. Then I called the main office. The woman who answered introduced herself as Dana. "I'm trying to verify a payment," I said. "It was made from a joint account in my name." She hesitated. "Are you listed on the lease?" "I don't believe so." "I'm sorry," she said. "We generally can't discuss tenant information with someone not named on the application." "I understand, but my household savings paid the deposit. I'm not asking for private details. I need to know whether there is an active application connected to Vanessa Walker." Silence. Not long. But long enough. "Could you spell the last name?" I did. Keyboard clicks. Then another pause. "Yes," Dana said carefully. "There is an application in that name." "Is she the sole applicant?" "I can't provide Is there another applicant named Elliot Crane?" The silence changed. It became heavier. "Mr. Walker," Dana said, "I really think you should speak to an attorney if you believe there has been a financial issue." "Is she listed as his domestic partner?" Dana did not answer. She did not need to. I drove home early that day. I told my assistant I had a family matter. I told the warehouse supervisor I would be available by phone. I said all the ordinary things people say when they need to leave without explaining that their private life has suddenly become a scene they do not know how to enter. Vanessa was supposed to be at work until 6. I got home at 3. Our house was quiet. The dishwasher was running. A package sat on the porch. The mail was on the kitchen counter, stacked neatly under the ceramic bowl where Vanessa kept our keys. Everything looked exactly like the life I thought I had. I went to the desk in our home office. The desk had 2 drawers. One was mine. Work files, old receipts, warranties, spare batteries, the kind of clutter a person creates when he believes he will organize it later. The other was Vanessa's. I had never opened it. Not because I was virtuous, because I had never believed I needed to. That afternoon, I opened it. There were folders, insurance papers, clinic paperwork, a card from her mother, tax documents, a small notebook with a leather cover, and beneath all of it, a manila envelope. The Lakeview Residential Group logo was printed in the corner. My hands did not shake when I opened it. I wish they had. Shaking would have made the moment feel human. Instead, I felt very calm. The application was there. Vanessa Walker, Elliot Crane, household income, proposed move-in date, 2 adult occupants. Then I saw the line Dana had refused to confirm. Asterisk, asterisk, relationship to co-applicant, domestic partner. Partner. I read the document twice. The first time, I read it as a husband. The second time, I read it as an operations manager. Dates, amounts, signatures, statements, proof of income. The lease had been scheduled to begin in 12 days. 12 days after the final payment on Vanessa's parents' family debt was due. That part was not an accident. Vanessa had planned to leave after I paid the remaining $38,000. Not before, after. The transfer from our account was only the beginning. She had moved enough for the apartment deposit and several months of rent. The rest of our savings would remain untouched until the final debt payment cleared. Then, according to the documents in front of me, she intended to leave. I sat down in my desk chair. For a long time, I looked at the date, and I thought about every weekend I had worked, every dinner I had skipped, every time I told myself that financial stress was temporary because the person beside me was worth the work. I was not angry yet. I was tired. There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from lack of sleep. It comes from realizing that you have been carrying something heavy with another person, only to discover they were walking toward a different destination the entire time. Then I saw the signature page. The application listed 2 emergency contacts, Vanessa's mother and Vanessa's younger sister, Paige. Paige had been around our house constantly over the past few months. She came for dinner. She helped Vanessa pick paint colors for the living room. She complained about her job. She asked me if I thought the final debt payment would feel strange after so many years. I remembered her saying it one Sunday afternoon. "You're almost free," she said. I had thought she meant us. The application had a signed financial declaration attached. Vanessa's income, Elliot's income, and a letter stating that part of the lease deposit had been gifted to Vanessa by her husband for personal relocation expenses. I read that sentence once, then again. The signature beneath it was mine. Or something meant to look like mine. It was not. I knew my signature. I had signed freight contracts, mortgage documents, tax returns, hospital forms, permission slips, loan paperwork, and more delivery confirmations than I could count. The capital H in my name always began with a clean downward line. The signature on the document began with a loop. My last name ended too sharply. The pressure was wrong. But more than that, the date was wrong. It said I had signed the declaration on a Tuesday in March. I had been in Louisville that Tuesday, attending a 3-day supply chain conference. I had hotel records, expense reports, emails, and a company itinerary to prove it. That was when the story changed. Until then, I had been looking at betrayal. Now I was looking at documents created in my name without my knowledge. I took photographs of every page. I did not remove anything. I put the folder back exactly where I found it. Then I called an attorney. Her name was Priya Nanduri. A former coworker had recommended her years earlier when we were buying our house, calling her the kind of attorney who makes a room quieter without raising her voice. Her office was downtown, above a bookstore, and across from a small park. When I called, I told the receptionist I needed an appointment about joint funds and a possible forged signature. She found me a time for the next morning. That night, Vanessa came home at 6:23. She walked through the front door carrying takeout from a Thai restaurant we both liked. She smiled. "I thought we could eat on the patio," she said. "It's finally nice out." I took the bag from her. "Sounds good," I said. She looked at me. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said. That was the first lie I had told my wife in years. It was not a satisfying feeling. It did not make me feel powerful. It made me understand how lonely deception must be when a person does it every day. We ate dinner outside. Vanessa talked about her clinic. A new therapist had joined the staff. Someone had double-booked 2 patients. Her supervisor was thinking about expanding. I listened. Every now and then, she looked at her phone. The screen was face down on the table. She had started doing that months earlier. I remembered noticing. I remembered deciding not to be the kind of husband who monitored his wife's phone. Trust, I had believed, was not surveillance. I still believe that. But trust is not the same as choosing not to see what has changed. The next morning, I met Priya. She was in her early 50s, precise in the way some people become precise after years of watching other people make emotional decisions with legal consequences. She read the lease application, then the declaration, then the bank confirmation. She asked me questions slowly. Did I authorize the transfer? No. Had I ever agreed in writing that the money was a gift? No. Did I sign the declaration? No. Was the account joint? Yes. Did I want to preserve the evidence before confronting my wife? Yes, I said. Priya leaned back in her chair. This is not a situation where I want you to act impulsively, she said. Joint accounts can be complicated, but the alleged declaration in your name is a separate concern. You should not confront anyone until we have preserved copies, clarified the transfer path, and put the leasing office on notice that there is a dispute over the source of funds. What does that mean for the lease? It may mean they pause it, she said, or ask for replacement funds. Their decision is theirs, but if their deposit was obtained using disputed money and supported by a document you deny signing, they need to know before keys are handed over. Do it, Priya nodded. Then she asked, one more question. Do you know whether the other applicant knows the money came from your joint savings? I thought about Elliot Crane, his name on the lease, his income figures, the domestic partner box. I thought about how confidently someone must move through a rental process to believe that the money beside them was freely given. I don't know, I said. Priya folded the documents into a file. Then he may be about to learn he was lied to as well. That afternoon, I called Paige. I asked her to meet me for coffee. She chose a place near her apartment, a small cafe with exposed brick walls and music low enough that people could pretend private conversations were private. Paige arrived 5 minutes late. She sat down, smiled, and asked how I was doing. How long have you known? Her smile disappeared. Not slowly, immediately. Henry, how long? She looked around the cafe. Please don't do this here. That means you know. Paige pressed her lips together. I knew Vanessa was unhappy, she said. I knew she was talking to someone. Did you know she was taking money from our account? She said it was hers too. Did you know she used my name on a financial document? Paige's eyes moved away from mine. That was enough. She asked me to witness something, Paige said quietly. She said you had agreed. She said you were being generous because you knew the marriage was over. I looked at the woman who had eaten at my table 2 weeks earlier and asked whether I was excited to finally be free of debt. "You watched me work weekends," I said. Paige started crying. I told her she shouldn't do it this way. "But you stayed quiet. She's my sister. And I was your family too." She had no answer. I did not need one. When I left the cafe, I felt no satisfaction, only clarity. Paige had not created the lie, but she had chosen the comfort of standing beside it. The key handover was scheduled for the following Friday at 4 p.m. I knew because the appointment confirmation had been printed in the folder Vanessa hid in her desk. Vanessa believed she would leave work early that day. She believed Elliot would meet her at Lakeview Residential Group. She believed the keys would be waiting. What she did not know was that Priya had sent the leasing office a formal notice 3 days earlier. It stated that the deposit funds were disputed and that a supporting declaration appeared to contain my forged signature. The office had acknowledged receipt. They had not canceled the application, but they had suspended it pending clarification. I did not go there to make a scene. I went because Priya told me that if questions were raised about the signature, I should be present to confirm my position. At 3:52, I parked across the street from the leasing office. It was raining lightly, the kind of rain that makes a city look muted and unfinished. At 3:58, Vanessa's car pulled into the lot. She got out wearing a cream-colored blazer and carrying a leather tote bag. Elliot arrived 2 minutes later. He was taller than I expected, maybe 45, dark hair going gray at the temples, clean shoes, the kind of man who seemed to have chosen every part of his outfit carefully. He hugged Vanessa when he got out of his car. Not dramatically, not secretly, like two people who believed they were starting something. I watched them through the windshield, and for 1 second I wondered whether he loved her, whether he believed she loved him, whether some version of this story had been told to him where I was the distant husband, the obstacle, the man who had failed to understand his wife. Then I remembered the forged signature, and I understood that whatever Elliot had been told, it had not been the whole truth. Vanessa and Elliot entered the building. I waited 30 seconds, then I followed. Dana, the leasing agent I had spoken to on the phone, was behind the desk. She recognized me but did not change her expression. Vanessa stood near a small table with a welcome folder in front of her. Elliot had one arm resting lightly behind her back. They both looked pleased. Then Dana said, "Before we can proceed, there's an issue we need to discuss." Vanessa's face changed. Elliot looked confused. "What issue?" he asked. Dana opened a file. "We received notice of a financial dispute connected to the deposit payment and one of the supporting documents." Vanessa looked at the door. Then she saw me. Her entire body went still. "Henry," she said. Elliot turned. His eyes moved from me to Vanessa. "Who is this?" "My name is Henry Walker," I said. "I'm Vanessa's husband." Elliot's face did not change immediately. Then Dana continued. "The transfer used for the deposit came from a joint account held by Mr. Walker and Miss Walker. Mr. Walker disputes authorizing the payment. He also disputes signing the financial declaration submitted with the application." Elliot stared at Vanessa. "What is she talking about?" Vanessa's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Dana placed the declaration on the table. "I'm not making a legal determination," she said carefully. "But until the dispute is resolved, the lease is suspended and keys cannot be released." Elliot picked up the document. I watched him read it. His eyes reached the line that called Vanessa his domestic partner. Then the statement about the gift from her husband. Then the signature. He looked at Vanessa. "You told me he knew." Vanessa stepped toward him. "Elliot, I was going to explain. You told me the money was from your settlement savings. I had access to it." "That isn't what I asked." The office was silent. Vanessa looked at me. Her eyes were wet now. "You had no right to come here." I looked at her. "No right. You wanted to humiliate me." "No. I wanted the truth to reach the people you involved in it." Elliot held the document in both hands. "You said your marriage was already over," he told her. "You said Henry had moved on. You said he wanted you to have the money." Vanessa's voice became smaller. "It was over emotionally." Elliot laughed once. It was not a happy sound. "Emotionally?" he said. "Vanessa, you put another man's name on a financial document." "I was trapped. You were lying." She looked at him desperate now. "You don't understand what it was like." I did. That was the problem. I understood too much. The years of debt, the quiet pressure, the compromises, the exhaustion. But none of it made what she had done inevitable. Hardship explains strain. It does not excuse deception. Priya stepped forward beside me. She had arrived a few minutes after I did, and had remained near the entrance, allowing the leasing office to handle its own process. She introduced herself to Vanessa. "Mrs. Walker," she said, "my client is not here to stop you from leaving a marriage. That is not his objective." Vanessa looked at her. "Then what is?" Priya's tone remained even. "An honest resolution of shared assets and a response to the document that bears his name." I looked directly at Vanessa. "You can leave," I said. "I am not going to chase you. I am not going to beg you to stay in a house you no longer want." Tears slipped down her face. "But you don't get to leave by taking money we saved together after I spent 6 years helping your family and then use my name on papers I never saw." Vanessa whispered, "What do you want me to do?" "You have a choice." I took a breath. "Work this out honestly through attorneys, account for the money, address the document, or keep pretending I'm the problem and deal with what comes from that." Nobody spoke. The rain pressed softly against the windows. Elliot placed the declaration back on the table. Then he looked at Vanessa one last time. "I need to think," he said. She reached for his arm. He stepped away, not angrily, not theatrically. Just enough to make clear that the future she had presented to him no longer existed in the same shape. Then he walked out. Vanessa watched him leave. For a moment, I saw the person I had married. Not the woman who lied to me. Not the woman who had planned an exit around a debt I was still paying. Just a person standing in a leasing office, watching the consequences of her choices arrive all at once. I did not feel victorious. I felt finished. The settlement took 4 months. Vanessa hired her own attorney. The disputed funds were accounted for. A portion of the money was returned. The remaining questions about the documents were handled through the legal process without public accusations or dramatic speeches. Paige sent me a letter. It was 6 pages long. She apologized for witnessing something she knew she should have questioned. She said she had convinced herself that loyalty to her sister meant silence. I read it once, then I put it in a drawer. Some apologies are important because they show a person finally sees what they did. That does not mean they restore what their silence helped destroy. Vanessa moved into a smaller apartment across town, not the Lakeview place. Elliot did not move in with her. I heard from someone months later that he had ended the relationship shortly after the leasing office meeting. I did not ask for details. It was no longer my business. The family debt was paid off. I made the final payment alone, $38,000. When the confirmation appeared on my screen, I expected relief. Instead, I felt something quieter. A door closing. Not a dramatic slam. Just the sound of something ending exactly where it should. I stayed in the house for another year. Then I sold it. The kitchen cabinets were still peeling. The patio still had the old chairs we bought at a hardware store during our 2nd year of marriage. There were marks on the hallway wall where we had measured nieces and nephews during family holidays. For a while, I thought leaving that house would mean admitting I had failed. But that was not true. A life can end without being a failure. A marriage can become impossible without every good memory inside it becoming fake. Sometimes you simply reach the point where staying faithful to the past would mean being unfaithful to yourself. I moved into a townhome closer to work, smaller place, better windows, no backyard to maintain. 1 bedroom I used as an office, and one I left empty for months because I had no idea what to do with an empty room. Then, one Saturday, I bought a desk, a real desk, solid wood, too expensive, probably. I set it by the window, and when I opened the top drawer, I placed nothing inside it except a notebook. On the first page, I wrote 1 sentence. Asterisk, asterisk, the next thing I build will be built on the truth. That was all I had at first. But it was enough.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. It's just me and you in this room full of silence. Heartbeat skipping. Every second feels timeless. Yeah. You trace your name across my shoulder. I read the lines like a secret you whisper quiet. We spend the morning trading sleep for new confessions. Yeah. Your touch rearranging pieces I tried to hide, never needed signs, just the way you lean closer. Every breath you take is pulling color to my mind. All of these walls start melting when you're closer. Gravity changes, I move the way you want. You don't have to ask, I'm already gone. Drawn where the edges blur, where we both belong. Our rhythm breathing uncontrolled. Write your story on my skin. You turn the ordinary gold. With every promise we begin. Lips spinning stories, truth behind every tease. You hold my gaze like a show no one else can see. We cross that line, no map, but we're both believers. In a world that's loud, your voice is the only melody. Maybe tomorrow's complicated, but tonight you're the pulse I needed. Let doubts fade, let distance break. We're right here on a resting ray. Our rhythm breathing under control. Write your story on my skin. You turn the ordinary gold. With every promise we begin. No way back, I only know you're the place I always am. Room it turns to shadow, but your echoes in my veins.